There is a language that heaven understands, a language that shifts circumstances, a language that breaks chains and opens doors. It is not the language of defeat, despair, or doubt. It is the language of victory. The words you speak are not just sounds, they are seeds. Every sentence you release is a seed planted into the soil of your future. If you speak weakness, you plant weakness. If you speak defeat, you plant defeat. But when you speak victory, faith, and power, you plant the harvest that heaven will bring to life. Too many live their days speaking like victims. They repeat the language of limitation. They echo the sounds of their surroundings instead of declaring the promises of God. They say, I can't, when heaven is saying, you can. They say, it's impossible, when the eternal word is saying, with God all things are possible. They say, I am broken, when the king has already spoken, you are more than a conqueror. A victim looks at the mountain and says, it's too big. A victor looks at the same mountain and says, be removed and cast into the sea. A victim speaks from the pit. A victor speaks from the palace, even if the palace has not yet appeared. The language of a victim is reactive, shaped by circumstances. The language of a victor is creative, shaping circumstances by the words spoken in faith. The atmosphere responds to your voice. Your future listens to your tongue. Your destiny waits for your declaration. There was a time when darkness covered the earth, and the world was void and empty. Nothing moved, nothing grew, nothing changed. But then a voice broke the silence. Let there be light, and there was light. Power was released through speech. Creation responded to a word. You are created in that same image, with that same ability to speak life, speak change, speak destiny. Your words are not empty. They carry spiritual weight. Stop repeating what the enemy whispers. Stop amplifying fear. Stop narrating your pain as if it's your identity. Begin to proclaim who you are in the Spirit. Say, I am victorious. I am strong. I am an overcomer. I am blessed. I am rising. I am walking into divine purpose. I am favored. I will not be held back. My past is not my prison. My tongue is my tool for triumph. Every time you speak like this, you are constructing the framework of your future. Even when Joseph was in the pit, he kept the dream alive inside. Even when David stood before Goliath, he didn't speak about the size of the giant. He spoke about the greatness of his God. Even when dry bones were scattered across the valley, a prophetic voice was required to command them to live. Victors speak life into dry places. Victors talk to the walls of Jericho and declare them down. Victors don't wait for change. They speak change. Your language must rise higher than your feelings. Feelings fluctuate, but truth stands firm. A victim speaks what they feel. A victor speaks what they believe. When storms rage, a victim says, we're perishing. A victor says, peace, be still. When doors seem locked, a victim complains. A victor declares, I see an open door no one can shut. When the night is long, a victim mourns. A victor announces, joy comes in the morning. Do not underestimate your tongue. Life and death are in its power. Blessing and cursing are in its choice. Speak like a king, not a captive. Speak like a builder, not a beggar. Speak like one who knows the outcome is already decided. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a victor through declaration. When your mouth aligns with the promises, your reality begins to align with heaven. There will be moments when fear tries to grab your speech. In those moments, lift your voice higher. Say what heaven says, not what fear says. Declare healing when pain screams. Declare provision when lack whispers. Declare peace when chaos surrounds. Declare victory when defeat seems near. Your voice can turn a midnight prison into a place of praise. Your song can break chains. Your words can open gates. Stop giving power to problems through your complaints. Start giving power to solutions through your confessions. Every time you speak like a victor, you dethrone defeat. Every time you declare the word, you activate angels. Every time you proclaim faith, you silence fear. This is not denial of reality. It is alignment with a higher reality. Victors don't ignore battles. They win them by speaking victory into them. Today, choose to shift your language. Let your tongue become the trumpet that announces triumph. Let your declarations rise like incense, reaching the throne room. Let your words pierce through the atmosphere and shape your tomorrow. Speak strength over weakness. Speak abundance over lack. Speak breakthrough over barriers. Speak joy over sorrow. Speak power over fear. Speak like one who knows that victory has already been secured. When you change your language, you change your life. When you speak like a victor, you walk like one. You think like one. You live like one. Let your mouth become a fountain of faith, not an echo of fear. Lift your voice, align it with truth, and watch the mountains move. Speak like a victor, not a victim. The power of the tongue is one of the most underestimated forces in life, yet it holds the key to shifting seasons, unlocking doors, and transforming entire destinies. Every word that comes out of your mouth carries weight. It is like a seed dropped into the soil of time, and that seed will grow and produce a harvest according to its kind. When you understand that your words shape your world, you will become intentional about what you speak in every circumstance. The atmosphere around you responds to your declarations. Your future listens to your confessions. Your destiny leans in to hear what your tongue is announcing. If your words are filled with defeat, fear, and negativity, then you are giving life to those things. But if your words are filled with faith, strength, and victory, then you are authorizing heaven to move on your behalf. Words are creative forces. In the beginning, there was no structure, no light, no form. But then a voice broke the silence and said, "Let there be light," and creation obeyed. That same creative power is reflected in you because you were made in the image of the Creator, and He designed your tongue to carry the ability to build, to release, to shape, and to call things into existence. Many people spend their days describing what they see instead of declaring what they desire. They speak about their problems more than they speak about the promises. They talk about their pain more than they talk about their purpose. They rehearse the language of defeat, not realizing that they are watering seeds of discouragement with every negative confession. But when you start speaking victory, even when nothing looks victorious, you are aligning yourself with a higher truth. You are setting spiritual laws into motion that will eventually shape the natural reality around you. Your words can shift the atmosphere in your home. They can change the direction of your career. They can bring healing to your body and peace to your mind. Every declaration is like laying bricks in the structure of your future. If you keep laying bricks of defeat, you will build a prison. If you keep laying bricks of victory, you will build a palace. What you speak consistently becomes the environment you live in. There are people who constantly say, "I can't. It's too hard. It will never happen. I am not good enough. My situation will never change." Each of these statements is not just an expression of feelings. It is a spiritual decree that limits what can unfold in their lives. The tongue carries the power of life and death, and many unknowingly speak death over their dreams, their relationships, their finances, and their health by confessing defeat. Speaking defeat attracts defeat. Speaking fear gives strength to fear. But when you speak victory, you are throwing open the doors of possibility, saying, "I can do all things. There is a way. Something good is coming. I am equipped and able. This situation will turn around. Breakthrough is near." Shifts your mindset, lifts your spirit, and sets divine power into motion. Speaking faith-filled words creates momentum in the unseen realm long before it manifests in the visible. The language of victory must become your daily habit, not an occasional reaction. It is not enough to speak positively once in a while. Your world is shaped by the words you repeatedly speak. Just as a builder consistently lays bricks to raise a wall, your repeated declarations form the framework of your reality. You must train your tongue to align with victory, even when your emotions do not agree. Emotions fluctuate, but words spoken in faith remain powerful. There will be times when everything around you looks dark, but that is the moment to speak light. There will be seasons when everything feels unstable, but that is when your voice must become steady and sure. Your mouth must become the compass that points your life in the direction of triumph. Even when storms arise, your tongue has the authority to say, "Peace, be still." Even when mountains stand tall, your tongue has the authority to command them to move. The enemy often works not by taking away your power, but by corrupting your language. If he can make you agree with defeat, he can make you build a cage with your own words. That is why guarding your speech is so crucial. You cannot afford to speak fear in the morning and expect victory in the evening. You cannot confess weakness all week and expect strength to appear. You cannot keep narrating your life as a victim and expect to live like a victor. You must become the guardian of your own tongue. Speak words that give life, not words that drain it. Speak words that align with your destiny, not your doubts. Speak words that announce your victory, not words that echo your pain. When you start to declare victory consistently, everything about your inner world begins to shift. Your thoughts follow your words. Your attitudes align with your declarations. Your decisions become bolder. Your faith becomes stronger. You begin to walk with confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because your words have already set the direction. Even heaven responds to faith-filled speech. Angels are activated by words of faith. Mountains are moved by declarations spoken with conviction. Closed doors are opened through persistent prophetic speech. Your tongue is not meant to be silent in the face of challenges. It is meant to be a weapon that cuts through obstacles. The words you speak become the atmosphere you live in tomorrow. Think of your mouth as a fountain. If bitter water flows from it, it will poison the atmosphere around you. But if living water flows from it, it will bring refreshing to every area of your life. You have the authority to choose what flows. Speaking like a victor means choosing life even when death surrounds you. It means speaking hope when despair tries to settle. It means declaring strength when weakness whispers. It means announcing abundance when lack is visible. Your world begins to mirror the language you consistently speak. If you want to change your environment, change your declarations. If you want to shift your story, shift your speech. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always control what comes out of your mouth, and that will eventually determine what happens through you. The words you speak today will shape the reality you step into tomorrow. Every "I can" builds a step upward. It will happen lays a stone forward. Every "I am victorious" sets the tone for triumph. Even when the process is slow, the structure is being built with each declaration. Speaking like a victor is not pretending, it is prophesying. It is announcing what is to come before it arrives. It is standing in faith and using your tongue as the architect of your destiny. When you grasp this truth deeply, you will stop carelessly releasing words and start strategically declaring victory over every part of your life. Your words shape your world, and when you choose to speak victory, you are choosing to build a future that aligns with strength, abundance, and purpose. And the victor understands that the mouth is not meant to simply echo what is seen, but to proclaim what is promised. There is a difference between describing a situation and declaring the promise over it. Anyone can talk about problems. It takes faith to declare the promises when the problems are all that the eyes can see. The language of a victor is rooted in truth that stands above circumstances. While problems shout loudly, promises speak more powerfully to those who choose to believe. A victor doesn't deny the existence of challenges, but refuses to give them the final word. Instead of magnifying obstacles, a victor magnifies the word. Instead of rehearsing what is wrong, a victor repeats what has been spoken from a higher authority. This is the posture that shifts outcomes. When you choose to declare the promise, you are not ignoring reality. You are shaping it through the authority of faith-filled words. Many live their lives under the weight of their problems because their tongue has become a reporter of troubles rather than a proclaimer of solutions. They repeat the narrative of fear, lack, and limitation so often that it becomes the dominant atmosphere around them. They say things like, "I don't see a way. It's getting worse. Nothing ever changes," and these words build walls around their potential. Problems are fed by negative confession. Every time you speak the language of defeat, you water the problem and give it strength to grow. But when you declare the promise, you starve the problem and feed your faith. A victor will look at a closed door and say, there is a key. A victor will see a giant and say, the battle belongs to God. A victor will face a desert and say, streams will flow in this wasteland. These declarations are not empty words. They are seeds of transformation released into the atmosphere. The story of David and Goliath illustrates this clearly. While the entire army of Israel spoke about how big Goliath was, David spoke about how big his God was. The soldiers declared their fear. David declared the promise. The soldiers magnified the problem. David magnified the covenant. He didn't deny the giant's presence, but he refused to let the giant define the narrative. His words before the battle were words of victory. He declared what would happen before it happened. He spoke as a victor while others spoke as victims. His declarations aligned with heaven, and the giant fell. The difference was not in strength or size, but in speech. A victor declares the promise even when the problem is loud. A victor chooses the language of faith over the language of fear. When challenges come, it is easy to get trapped in a cycle of complaint. The mind rehearses the details of the issue, the mouth repeats them, and the heart sinks deeper into discouragement. But a victor breaks that cycle by inserting the promise into the conversation. A victor says, this is the reality, but here is what God has spoken. A victor takes the promise like a sword and speaks it into the situation until the situation bows. The promise becomes the foundation upon which declarations are built. It is not about ignoring pain, but about declaring healing. It is not about overlooking lack, but about declaring provision. It is not about pretending there is no storm, but about declaring peace in the midst of it. The promise is the higher truth that has the power to overrule temporary circumstances when declared in faith. And the victor trains their tongue to become fluent in the language of promises. It does not happen automatically. It is a discipline. The natural tendency is to talk about what is wrong, but the spiritual discipline is to talk about what is written. A victor keeps promises close to the heart and on the lips. When fear rises, a victor speaks words of courage. When doubt whispers, a victor speaks words of assurance. When situations seem immovable, a victor speaks words that move mountains. This language is not based on visible evidence, but on unseen truth. It requires consistency. Just as a seed needs time to sprout, promises need to be declared consistently before they manifest. Every declaration is like watering the seed. A victor does not stop speaking the promise just because results are delayed. A victor keeps declaring until the promise takes shape in reality. Problems often have a way of trying to dominate conversations. They want attention, they want focus, they want to be the center of everything. But a victor takes control of the conversation. Instead of giving problems the platform, a victor gives promises the microphone. The more you talk about the promise, the more your faith is stirred. The more you declare the promise, the more your perspective shifts from defeat to expectation. Problems shrink when promises are proclaimed. Giants lose their intimidation when promises are spoken with authority. Storms quiet down when promises are released with conviction. The tongue becomes the steering wheel, and by declaring the promise, the victor directs their life toward breakthrough. Consider the power of prophetic declarations over dry situations. In a valley of dry bones, the situation looked hopeless. Bones scattered, lifeless, dry beyond repair. The problem was obvious to everyone, but a voice stood and declared the promise live. Those bones didn't come together because someone described how dry they were. They came together because someone declared what heaven wanted to happen. The bones responded to the promise, not the problem. This is how life works in the spiritual realm. Situations respond to declarations that align with truth, not to endless complaints. A victor does not merely analyze the problem, they speak the solution into it. They proclaim the outcome they believe, not the circumstance they see. The more you declare promises, the more your inner world changes. Your heart becomes anchored in hope. Your mind starts to expect breakthroughs. Your spirit grows stronger, bolder, and more aligned with purpose. Problems lose their ability to intimidate you because your focus shifts. The language of promises lifts you higher above the noise of fear and the weight of circumstances. You begin to see obstacles as temporary and promises as eternal. You begin to speak with authority rather than uncertainty. Your words become arrows that hit the target of destiny. Declaring the promise keeps your mouth aligned with victory and your spirit positioned for miracles. It is not that problems vanish instantly when promises are declared, but the atmosphere begins to change. The environment starts to align with the spoken word. Doors that were stuck begin to move. Hearts that were heavy begin to lift. Darkness begins to recede. Declaring the promise is like turning on a light in a dark room. The darkness cannot argue with it, it must retreat. When you consistently speak the promises, you are building a reality where victory is inevitable. You stop being a victim of what happens and become a co-creator of what unfolds. You step out of passivity and into spiritual authority through your words. A victor does not allow problems to dominate their speech. They give promises the loudest voice. Every declaration of a promise is a hammer strike against the wall of impossibility. Every repetition of a promise is like wind filling the sails of faith. Over time, those declarations carve out a pathway for the promise to manifest fully. When you change your language, you change the atmosphere around you, and eventually you change the direction of your life. Words are not just sounds, they are forces that shape reality. Many live trapped not because of external chains, but because their language has confined them. They speak doubt and attract doubt. They speak fear and empower fear. They speak defeat and build walls of defeat around themselves. But when a person begins to shift their language, the entire environment begins to respond. It is like adjusting the sails of a ship. The wind may remain the same, but the direction changes. The tongue acts like a rudder steering the entire course of life. If the rudder points toward defeat, that is where the vessel will head. But if it points toward victory, the destination begins to shift accordingly. Language is the unseen architect of visible outcomes, and when you choose to speak differently, everything starts to align differently. This transformation begins with awareness. Many are unaware of the power their words carry. They speak carelessly, not realizing that each phrase plants seeds in the soil of their future. A casual, "I can't," a thoughtless, "it will never work," a defeated, "I'm stuck," becomes like stones laid in the foundation of limitation. Over time, these words shape beliefs and beliefs shape behavior. But when language changes, beliefs are rebuilt. When you start to declare, "I can," "it is possible," "a way will be made," "I am rising," this situation will turn. Those words begin to reprogram the heart and renew the mind, and they ignite hope, stir faith, and break internal ceilings. The more you speak empowering language, the more your inner world begins to expect good outcomes. When the mouth speaks differently, the heart listens, and eventually actions follow. Changing your language is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about aligning your mouth with truth, rather than temporary appearances. Life is filled with situations that can intimidate, discourage, or overwhelm. But the way you speak in those moments determines whether you remain under the weight of circumstances or rise above them. When difficulties come, many respond with complaints, fear, and negativity, which only reinforces the pressure they feel. But those who intentionally shift their language respond with declarations of strength, peace, and faith. They say, "This is not the end. Better days are coming. I will overcome. There is a solution. Something good is unfolding." And those declarations open doors that complaints could never open. Language becomes a weapon of victory rather than a tool of defeat. There is a spiritual law at work in speech. Words release power in the unseen realm before change is visible in the seen realm. When language shifts, the atmosphere starts to adjust even if circumstances seem unchanged. A person who constantly speaks, faith creates an environment where faith thrives. A person who constantly speaks, hope cultivates a field where hope grows. A person who consistently declares victory prepares the ground for victory to manifest. This is why changing your language is so crucial. It sets in motion forces that eventually shape what you experience. It may not happen overnight, but just as consistent drops of water carve through stone, consistent declarations carve through obstacles. Over time, The shift in language rewrites the story. This transformation also influences how others perceive and respond to you. People are drawn to the atmosphere you create with your words. Negative, defeated language repels encouragement and reinforces isolation, but positive, faith-filled language attracts support, opportunities, and inspiration. When your language carries vision, people sense it. When your words release strength, others feel lifted. Changing your language not only transforms your personal world, but also impacts those around you. Your speech becomes a source of light in environments clouded by negativity. Your language can shift the tone of a room, calm storms in relationships, and inspire others to rise higher. A single person speaking words of victory can turn a defeated crowd into a company of overcomers. Changing your language requires intentionality. It is not automatic, especially if you have spent years speaking in patterns of defeat. You must become aware of the words you use daily. Listen to your own speech, catch phrases that echo fear, doubt, or limitation, and replace them with words of power, hope, and faith. This is not about empty positive thinking, but about aligning your language with a higher truth. It is about taking control of the narrative that flows from your mouth. As you change the way you speak, you train your mind to think differently. Thoughts and words are connected, changing one influences the other. Over time, new habits of speech create new patterns of thought, and new patterns of thought lead to new realities. The process of shifting language often begins in small moments. Instead of saying, "I'm so tired of this," you might begin to say, "I'm growing through this." Instead of saying, "I can't do it," you say, "I will find a way." Instead of declaring, "This is too much," you say, "I am equipped to handle this." Each time you make that switch, you are turning the rudder in a new direction. You may not see the full impact immediately, but the course of your life begins to realign with your words. Consistency is key. Occasional positive phrases will not transform a life, but persistent, deliberate, faith-filled language over time will build a new atmosphere around you and within you. Changing your language also affects how you handle pressure. When storms arise, language becomes either your shield or your trap. Negative language magnifies the storm and weakens your resolve, but victorious language calms the soul and strengthens your stance. Saying, "This will pass. There is peace in the midst of chaos. I will not be shaken. There is a breakthrough coming," stabilizes your emotions and focuses your heart on solutions rather than problems. Language is like light in a dark tunnel. It doesn't remove the tunnel, but it guides you through it. When your language is aligned with strength, and even adversity cannot crush you because your inner atmosphere remains unshaken. As your language changes, so does your expectation. People who speak defeat expect defeat, but those who speak victory expect good outcomes, and expectation has a way of drawing what it anticipates. Speaking words of victory trains your mind to look for opportunities, to notice open doors, to anticipate breakthroughs. The more you speak like a victor, the more you think like one, and the more you act like one. Your language becomes a catalyst that sets transformation into motion. It is not magic. It is alignment with spiritual and psychological principles that govern the flow of life. Language shapes identity as well. When you repeatedly declare who you are in strength, your self-image begins to align with those declarations. Saying, "I am strong, I am blessed, I am capable, I am chosen," builds an identity rooted in victory rather than defeat. Over time, this identity influences choices, behaviors, and responses. You stop shrinking back in fear because your language has built confidence. You stop accepting less than your potential because your words have carved a sense of destiny inside you. Your mouth becomes a mirror that reflects who you are becoming. By changing what you say about yourself, you change what you believe about yourself. Ultimately, the shift in language brings a shift in trajectory. Where the tongue points, the life follows. If the tongue points to defeat, the path leads downward. If the tongue points to victory, the path leads upward. This is why it is impossible to live a victorious life while constantly speaking a defeated language. Every word you speak builds or breaks, lifts or lowers, opens or closes. When you choose to change your language, you choose to build rather than break, to lift rather than lower, to open rather than close. The moment your words begin to change, the invisible blueprint of your future begins to be redrawn.